I shouldn't have even taken a thumbnail like that. Well, we're up here at exactly 6 o'clock. This is the benediction of our Saturday sunrise service. And I have to just concede that it's been a really bumpy, crazy, event-filled week. That's the one thing that is a constant in my mind, just how much stuff has happened this week. And it doesn't look like things are going to be letting up anytime soon. There's already at least two potentially significant events that are going to happen on Monday and Tuesday. And I had one job interview this week. The same old rigmarole. The person makes it sound like you're the most interesting individual in the world, and then you never hear anything back from them. Squeeze this a little bit more to the side. This year really has been there's been two overarching themes to it. One of them is a lot of I've been calling it the nostalgia year, where a lot of this like old stuff is getting dug up and revived and resurrected and put back into place. And the other thing I've been calling it is the year of the domino effect, where there's a lot of stuff that you can tell is only the way it is because one thing was changed, or like if you altered things in like one particular way, they would be so much different. I find that extremely interesting. Like, I've actually been thinking about the sequence of events since January, and how there's some stuff that ties back into the earlier part of last year, that if just one major event hadn't have happened, a lot of the fallout since then would also not have, most likely, almost certainly would not have occurred either. And you always have people who say, as if I'm really into what ifs, and like, if this were different, if that were, they're just kind of analyzing like how things would play out in a differing manner than how they did. You have people who will say, "Oh, why get caught up on what could have been when it didn't happen?" It's like, well, we're not really caught up on it. We're just talking about the how circumstances can, just with a tiny alteration, change so many things that happen afterward or in the interim, and how we just find it interesting. I know when this stream is over, the thing I'm gonna find the most interesting is a pillow. I was so irritated with myself these last couple of weeks, where I would go to sleep at like 3 in the morning and then try to like wake up at 6, get a little 3 hour nap or rest. And I just couldn't do it. Every time I'd set the alarm, well, not every time, but in a lot of instances, I'd wake up at 7 or 8 or 9, or something that's later than and it was all still early than the original 10 o'clock, but it still wasn't, what's the way of putting it, wasn't where I wanted it to be. Just like when I go to the market today, I only have two things I'm going to get. Well, at a minimum, two things, I should say. There's like, on like the pressing stuff that I'm supposed to just instinctively get is really small. Yeah, the domino effect is really interesting, because I'm not kidding. You can if you change things just a little bit, the effects and the aftermath are just so drastic. They're the polar opposite of each other. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know if anybody's gonna show up to that. I hope they do. But it is what it is. All right, so far, like for me, I got into a thing of where if I go for a whole hour and nobody says anything, or it's only like one comment, I'm just like, okay, I'm good. But um, generally speaking, I'm a lot more impressed with the replays than with the current number that will show up and watch something at a given time. Gonna open myself up to another line of irritation here. There's a person that they had a bag of some recyclables that they gave me, but they didn't tie it up. So there's like a little bunch of gnats and other annoyances and pests that were in there. Still thinking about this person tried to corral me to get the car washed, and then you get it washed, and like I was against doing it because I think it's stupid to wash something that is just going to be dirty again in a few days anyway. Um, and sure enough, I went to get it washed, and 4 days later, dirt was back pretty much everywhere. I really don't know how anyone who's not a millionaire can just go and get their car washed every week or whatever. Like the amount that a lot of these places charge, on top of the fact that it's something that's not an essential service. Like if the windows are clean enough to where you can see out of them, it really doesn't matter. We had this person yesterday saying, "Oh, you need to. I'd recommend getting a job," and I was just rolling my eyes because we've talked about this before. The whole, people mistaking it for being a choice versus a crappy circumstance. Um, but really, I've just accepted that there is a thing in people where it could be the way they phrase things, it could be the way that they interpret stuff. There's just a lack of humanity, compassion, understanding, and I'm going to I basically just resigned that this is my fate. This is what people will do forever and ever. For as long as I live, you will hear someone saying, "You should have done that. You should have made this person hire you." I already said before, after April and that train wreck of applying over and over while having that person put their foot on my neck, metaphorically about, oh, you'll have to pay half a thousand, that after that, I really just stopped caring as much. And again, it doesn't mean I don't look for stuff because I do. I even while I was, in that saga or that 3 week trial, but it's just one of those things where I really just got burnt out. Like and I said before that when something is not a choice of a person and another person who considers himself above someone else tries to go, you will now do this, or try to like, force them to do it, it's not going to work. Yeah, a lot of these people don't. They just can't pick up on that fact that you can't make a person who doesn't want to be unemployed get a job because if they had their way, they already would have one. I was laughing so hard yesterday when that person was like, "Oh, and these jobs aren't exactly glamorous. They may not be the thing you want to do." And I'm just sitting here like, do you really think that any of the stuff I've done up to this point has been what I wanted to do? If I was truly getting what I wanted, let's see here. I'd be able to come on here and speak and live off of that. I'd be able to, I mean, if we're talking about like something office related, I'd be a political consultant. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I'd actually like to do. But my point is, it's funny to see where you've got a person who compromised by basically accepting every position I was willing to hire them outside of the ones that do the part-time nonsense and dance that little goofy to that goofy tune. And your response to that person is to say, oh, well, you might have to go with jobs that you don't want. It's like, yeah, that's literally all of them except for like 5% that I'm not going to get anyway, regardless of how skilled I am in any given field. That was real funny when that person said about a month ago when I was dealing with that stupid place that wanted me to work part time and drive to people's houses, and then you're only going to give me 80 bucks a day and then 60 to fill up the tank of gas. It was really funny because I had the joke about how me being unemployed is going to become like this big major thing to where my friend is going to go on TV and they're going to ask him about my job, and he's like, I hope he keeps it. I hope they don't take it from him again. Like this like paranoia about the same thing happening over and over. And this person said, "Oh, let's not think negative." And I just thought to myself, man, we're done with the positivity punk stuff. If something has turned out the exact same way more times than we can count, or not even that rather, but multiple times, there's like this repeat pattern of person gets a new job, they work it as hard as they possibly can. Uh, the manager or some other factor individual starts like nipping at their heels and complaining about whatever they're doing, and then gets rid of them after a couple of weeks to a month. I mean, we're not stupid. We've had the excitement of, oh, I could really be at this place, and I like my coworkers, and I enjoy parts of the job, but you can't get used to this stuff because at any given point they can pull the rug from under you over anything. Man, I'm never not amazed by how busy it can be at just any hour of the day. The thing is, I noticed because I got up at five something. Well, I've been up all night, but I left at five something, and I swear this when I came and started going down the street, I saw cars speeding like they were in a Fast and Furious film. I mean, right down the street, going probably 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. And of course, I'm not going to act like I'm some, bastion of the speed of the road, but they were just going very fast. I thought I was in some kind of racing film. It made me very nervous. I got kind of scared and I shook for a bit, and I started to wonder if I was hallucinating, if all these fast cars were just a figment of my imagination. It's just really because I can't describe in full detail what's happening this week or possibly gonna happen for the next couple of weeks, but it's gonna be a wild ride, and um it really has felt like that since this year started. Like I always set up certain goals for myself. I have a lot of projects that are in the back burner. Maybe I don't work on them every day, every week, but there are things I'd like to do at some point. And it's really depressing to me that when I think about just how in real life, your success is measured by, do you work this job that you hate? Do you have this relationship with this person that, if you're a guy especially, usually doesn't even like you for who you are? I don't know. I just think it's so sad that a lot of the stuff that people would look at and say this person is successful, it all just feels so trite to me. Like, and it always feels as if they're just, it's never enough. Oh, you don't have a job, and then if you get one, oh, this job only pays you this much an hour, and then uh, you don't have a girlfriend, and then you get one, oh, the woman you're with is ugly or whatever. So it's one of those things where I just feel like I don't care anymore because I know that no matter what I do, it's never enough. Whether we're talking about this crappy group of relatives that we've been discussing at various points, or these stupid employers, or these brain dead pricks on the computer, it's just not enough. It's always something of complaining or having an issue with me, and I accept that this is just how they are. All these little factions and groups and teams. This is what they do. I'm the one that should be complaining that it's as cold as it is out here. Coming out to do my stream. No, it used to bother me about like the whole, people not showing up thing, but I'll do it to where it's an hour at minimum, and then if people don't show up, I'll just go and run my errand. I hope they show up so I can get the extra hour, but can't make people do anything. It's just really unfortunate that I'm just losing support. My channel is very much on the decline. Like I think this might be the beginning of the end, because I read a message this week and it shook me to my core. And I don't often get emotional when reading this stuff. I try to be very composed and measured, and I guess reserved to some degree or another. But there was something I read this week that it's really I think I may have if I go to sleep I might have a nightmare about it, or some kind of other waking dream. What this person wrote, it really terrified me. So I did let me remember which video it was. A video about unmarried Americans over age 40 hitting record highs. And in the comment section, there were 3 comments. There was one from Megumi, one from some John person I've never seen before, and then one from the Spectacular Sharon. And the Spectacular Sharon has left approximately 3 to 4 comments on my channel across the several weeks they've been subscribed. So we might get 1 comment a week if we're lucky, or even less. And this Spectacular Sharon says, "What happened to my comment, Justin? Is it a sign that I should unsubscribe?" And when I see this, I'm really confused because I feel like I pay enough attention to the comments to notice if something just vanishes. Uh, and I feel like I'm pretty much at a level where there are usernames I recognize and I know not to, like if I'm familiar enough with the person, I wouldn't react to seeing something by them other than to maybe heart it. So I'm just looking at this like what message was deleted? What was gotten rid of? Like I actually went and typed Spectacular Sharon's name in to see, what maybe some mod took it off. I couldn't find anything, including in my, because when a mod deletes a comment, it goes to there's a section in the creator studio where it shows where people's comments are removed by mods are. But I looked and looked and I couldn't find. I didn't see any proof of a message by the Spectacular Sharon being deleted, and that really scared me because now the Spectacular Sharon, my number one biggest supporter, the woman who transformed me from nothing into a person who possibly had a chance of achieving YouTube stardom in the political commentator community. She now is basically throwing in the white flag with regard to watching my stuff. I mean, she's asking should she go, and if she goes, I'll be nothing. I mean, who was I before Sharon? Before Sharon subscribed, I had no subs. Before Sharon subscribed, I had no views. It was only when Sharon came that I just saw this avalanche of people all descending upon me. So I really hope Sharon doesn't go, because if Sharon goes, the whole side of YouTube might as well. Oh man, it's scary. Telling you, when I read that message, the hair on the back of my head stood up, and it's kind of interesting when I looked and read the message and read through the whole thing and saw the part where she said, should I take this as a sign I should unsubscribe? I heard a scream, and it was only when I looked in the mirror that I realized the scream was for me. Because how can I go on without the spectacular Sharon? She made me. It was her who transformed this channel. But if she unsubscribes, I think we're gonna have to just hang up the hat. Like, I'll still put up stuff, but I think we don't have any prospects of ever getting any more views again. I think once she goes, you're gonna see the channel go upside down. I mean, I don't know how I could ever live without her. It's scary how I could ever manage without her. It's not like I did that for years. I mean, come on. I swear. I really do think some people just write stuff like that. I don't know if it's to troll because I've seen that person write regular comments before, and that's what made me think, okay, maybe they're serious. But I don't know. I'm noticing a trend more and more where people are like announcing that they're not subscribed or they're gonna unsub. As of for 3 years ago, 4 years ago, it really saddened me to be stuck till, and I would say it to be stuck at 2,000. I had one stream that I always remember where I said I could post content on YouTube for 30 years and still not even have 3,000 subs. But as I have mentioned repeatedly over the last few months, subscribers, at least as far as I'm concerned, are second fiddle to views. And I've said this before and I will say it again. I would rather have 1 million views with just 2,000 subscribers than a million subscribers with 2,000 views, which wouldn't even happen because, like whatever. But my point is, I would much rather have a much, much, much larger view count than sub count. So as much as I would hate to encourage people to unsub for me, if that's what you feel like doing, I can't stop you. I can't hold your hand and say, hey, please don't go. But I will admit, if Sharon leaves, I don't think I'll be able to manage without her. This might be my final year. It's really scary. Man, I'm telling you, this site has so many people that just they overinflate their importance. It like I've said before, the thing about most subscribers is that after they sub to a channel, even when they don't watch anymore, they usually, and there are some exceptions, I'll admit, but they usually stay sub to all the people they're subscribed to. Because most subs are locked in. They click a button and sometimes they watch, sometimes they vanish, but once they've added to that subscriber count, that's it, usually. Um, so for that person to, be like, hey, uh, should I just not even okay, all right, whatever you want to do, whatever floats your boat. Let me see what's going on here. Somebody actually wrote something on Twitter I was thinking of doing a video on. Like, it kind of scared me the way that they were talking, or I guess rather the way what the stuff they had typed. It's one of those things where people write something and it sounds it's like alarming, not in the sense of like, oh, I'm going to do this to you, but it's just kind of like a farewell message, and it's um what's the way of putting it? The way it's written sounds like someone who's either going to end their own existence, or at the very least is, what's the way of putting it? They're they're saying something that that is not what they normally would say, and it's like really depressing, and there's some kind of like melancholy to it. So I'm very worried. Like I'm not even a follower of that person. I'm like, Jesus, I hope they don't do that over that stupid site. And if I did a video, I wouldn't monetize it because I'm not trying to make any. I'm not trying the 5 cents off of that isn't even going to be worth it. So this, like I said, this isn't about exposure or whatever. I just really hate that people can get harassed or screwed with on other sites, and then because they don't have some big following online, nobody cares. But yeah, I didn't mean to go into a whole monologue about Sharon. It's just there are some people who you just can't live without. I'm just telling the truth, and I had to give her a whole section because she is one of my most important subscribers. It's so it's very important to acknowledge her and to try to appeal to her. I tell you, when I read that message, I was so confused. Like, what comment was deleted? What did you even say? Because sometimes YouTube does automatically hold like I've had streams where people will write something and it'll get held by just automatically by YouTube. Um, so that's what had me thinking. Okay, maybe this is whatever, but I don't know. There was some other person with a female name. Don't know if it was an actual woman because we've established that there are guys that come on here and cosplay, like grab a woman's name and take their picture. But there was someone else that had a woman's name, and they were complaining about my audio not being that loud or great or whatever. And I remember like saying, hey, my thing is, I'm sure if I went in iMovie or some other editor software, I can bump the audio up by some considerable amount, but I'm not going to spend the extra time increasing the volume of my voice if people aren't going to watch. Like if I was some channel that was getting 30,000, 40, 50,000 a video, right? Every video is like around some like 5-digit number. Then I would go, okay, it's worth it because I go in here, whatever amount of time it takes to boost all the audio up on this stuff it's time well spent because I'm getting some, but like just to get a few dozen, sorry, people don't like this phrase, but I really do believe in it. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. There's only so much stuff and so many hoops you can have me jump through before I'm just like, okay, that's it. It's really hard to exist in a society like this, I have to admit. Because really, it just comes down to when you have basic desires or wants, and you just can't get those for some damn reason, it becomes really demoralizing to keep like, trying to get it or to keep fighting for it or whatever. And like I said, there's a very thin line between making an effort and not being successful because of external factors and just like some stuff that's just out of your control. And then these people who are just like, if you just keep trying, you can have whatever you want. Just keep. It's like, guys, listen, I get the positive reinforcement stuff, but it's still, we've said before that stuff boosts someone's morale, but it can't make other people bend to your will. They're not. We went over this before. Definitely getting a better thumbnail for this. That's for sure. Somebody told me about the idea of like being estranged from your parents to such a degree that like if you had kids, they wouldn't even know they had grandkids. And I was telling them, I think that's actually hilarious because that would be further proof of just how far out of the loop they are. Like your kid made a kid, and maybe you find out about it eventually, of course, because I don't think you could hide something like that forever. But you didn't know that this kid existed until it could be several weeks later, several months later, several years later. But the more and more time passes with you having no clue about the pregnancy or a birth or the infant or the toddler, the longer time passes, it just like further cements that you really don't know what's going on with your own child that you claim to be so concerned about. So I think that would be really funny if someone made that and like into a that could be a show or a movie or a social experiment. That reminds me of the person that was asking why someone didn't go to the funeral of this other person last year, and another person had to tell them that that person had predeceased the person at the funeral, that they couldn't go because they were deceased. I'm just thinking to myself, it's really weird that that person did all they did for you, and you're around people who knew that they passed when they passed, and you're only finding out now, months and months and months later, that they died. Like, whatever. Just more weird stuff with these people. I really was going to call this the SSS stream, but I didn't. Let's just say those initials made me uncomfortable. So I'm sorry. I'm gonna put the whole title in there. Man, I'm just thinking about those that person's comments. Like they really they really tried to frame it as you might have to get a job that you don't like. Like that's literally all of the ones I've had. But each time I go to one of them, I swear I always smile. Well, except for the one at the retailer because I had to wear that stupid mask all day. But I smile. I greet the people that are there. I mean, it really drives me nuts just how far you have to go. Just, I mean, just for nothing. Because like I said, all we do is compromise, and we get told just keep compromise, just give up everything. And at a certain point, you just get tired of. You're like, okay, look, we put up with this for this long, with that for how long? We're just we're done. It's enough. Shouldn't have streamed this early. Everybody's probably sleeping. Well, all these different damn time zones, everyone is conveniently sleeping at the exact same time. I don't even know what time it is in the UK. It's probably like in the later part of the day. Maybe I'm gonna say probably after like middle or late afternoon, probably like 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So they're all sleeping, and then if it's we call it like a morning hour for someone else over here. Like let's say if you're talking about the East Coast, it's probably 3 hours ahead. They're all sleeping, even though it's if anything, it should be reversed where it's almost 10 o'clock for them. They would be awake, but I guess not. Yeah, that lady really unnerved me with what she wrote. And somebody said it sounded like a you know what note. And my thing is if I wanted to, this is me, but if I wanted to do something like that, and trust me, there have been multiple instances where I have wanted to do something like that or wanted, contemplate whatever. I would, I'm fairly certain I would not, if I did write something, it wouldn't be in a public domain. Like maybe I'd make like a cryptic video. I'd be like, hey, so, thanks for everyone for your support. I think things are winding, some kind of like thing that kind of alludes to it. But as far as like, I'm sorry, everyone, I have all the no, I'm not doing that. Whenever you feel like apologizing, just think of all the times people did nasty things to you, didn't apologize. Um, Actually, no, let me rephrase that. Whenever you feel like apologizing, just think of all the times that people did nasty things to you and then apologize and then subtract that number by one. And that's how many apologies you should give out. So if nobody ever said sorry to you for what they did, you shouldn't say sorry for what you did. Two-way street. We can't have one person trying to atone for their sins, but everybody else gets to be as nasty as they want. I already said before, if something did happen to me, I want to make sure that there's an official transcript of the major happenings that occurred. Um, so that if again in the event that something like that happens, we can at the very least have a record of what occurred, and the people who did the bad things or were screwed up in whichever way that they were, they can't walk away. They can't be like, hey, I was always nice to this person. You can read and be like, no, you weren't. They say right here in this page that you were threatening the, so I would really like to do something like that. Just make sure that if something happens to me in the hypothetical where even if I wasn't like famous, just like hypothetical where I was more well known than I am now, I would really like that there's some record that just goes through piece by piece what these people did so that they're never able to, you know, pretend that what they did doesn't matter because this person is deceased or incapacitated, whatever. I like the idea that there's some kind of official documents by the person that they treated like crap while they were alive saying, hey, this person was terrible, they did this, that, and the other. I would really like that. because I do think a lot of people play revisionist history, and I could totally see these three scumbags being like, "Oh yeah, we were so nice to him, we loved him so," all that trash. But like I said, I remember, and I would love to make sure that everybody else does too. Oh man, it's a nice car. Gotta say the woman inside is not of the same quality standard. It's actually a trend I'm noticing where a lot of times where there's some woman that has a really nice car, it's either an elderly, like a woman you can kind of like tell is probably like 40, 50 something, um, that has her own means of living or whatever, or it's some woman that's in the passenger seat of some guy's ride, which what I'm seeing right now is these people are driving off. Yeah, there's a lot of little trends I've picked up on just by observing stuff. That's always the best part about coming up here when you get to just look at people. You don't say anything to them. You don't look at them for too long, but you just kind of like watch them. You see how these people talk to each other. Because I'm telling you, in this one spot, you see so many different personalities. I see police showing up at various hours of the day. I see what do you call it? Various couples. Some of them are outward with it. Others are just kind of, like I said before, I don't have a problem with seeing couples where it's just like, oh, here's this man, and this woman, and they're holding hands, or maybe they're just talking to each other. But when it's that making out stuff, and I start rolling my eyes. I'm like, get out of here with that. Because like I said, they're doing that so they can get attention. They're not people who are in love with each other don't have to do that in front of a bunch of strangers to you know that they care about each other. Just like how I'm not angry if people have kids, but I'm not going to pretend that when I see a lot of these um, douchebags that I know in real life posting pictures hugged up with their kid on social media that it doesn't annoy me, because it's like, why do why does the World Wide Web need to know that you care about your kid? I literally have dozens of pictures with various people I care about that I've never posted anywhere. They're just in like a private folder or something, because I like, again, it's I don't need social media or any other website to validate that I care or like somebody, care for or like somebody. Gumi says, "Hey Justin, I tried to catch you at your last stream but came too late. And yeah, I understand what you mean that couples doing intimate action in public. Yeah, from now on, if I go for an hour plus and like no one says anything, it's only like one comment, I usually just go, because I a lot of times there's just other stuff I can do during the day. Um, like Saturday and Monday tend to be very, although I'll say, yeah, Monday more so than Saturday, but like on Saturday, usually I do this and I go to the market, and sometimes there'll be little other things I can do as well. So it's really just me trying to conserve time, because again, the point of a stream is to interact with people, and if people don't show up, there's nobody to interact with. So this isn't meant to be an insult toward you or a slight or a diss or a rebuke. It's just me saying that if people aren't there and I feel like I've said everything I have to say, then I don't want to just sit here and stare at the camera for another 60 minutes. Yeah, you'll never guess who I got a call from yesterday. When I saw my phone, the hair on the back of my head stood up. The first time they called me in, what is that, 8 months? I'll put it this way. I know it's the first time this year. Yeah, I get what you mean. It sucks because I want to catch you at your stream, but because after starting this job, we tend to finish quite late. Oh yeah, well I already been down that road. I mentioned that. Yep, it was one of the insane relatives. It was the same one that. Well, you know what? We don't even have to use a nickname. Do you want to have a place to live when you come back? That's all. That's all we have to say, and you know exactly which ones we're being referred to. When that bastard ringed my phone, I had to do a double take. I was like, I must be dreaming. Oh, and by the way, all that little nasty stuff they did back in January, it was gone. They were very subdued and cordial. Um, I'll get into more specifics about it probably at a later date because there's like a current ongoing saga that's about to possibly pop off. Um, but it's just really interesting how these people, I didn't even tell you this, but back in January when the spin artist had the 3 hour conversation with one of my relatives and myself, and he was talking to the other person, he was like, oh, back when he was referring to me underage. I must have been like 14, 13, 15. He had like asked me why I wouldn't say this to him or something, and I said you would knock my head off, basically like implying I was afraid. And he said like that I was afraid of him, and then I said like in response to that, not anymore. And it was really funny because it's like this truly is like this period of the last 7 months and arguably of the last 10 months has been the dissolution of all these crappy relationships that are all based around trying to control somebody, and you better be afraid of what we're going to do. That's all dying out. All that's all withering away. They're on their last leg. Megumi, they have this term on TV tropes called the Wharf effect. And it's basically where you have some really strong character who, when they first show up, they're unbeatable, they're powerful. And then after a couple of appearances, maybe next season, they are much easier to deal with than they were before. So, like the spin artist back when I was a teenager and a little kid, oh man, I don't want him to, whoop me or beat me up or whatever. And oh, he might yell at me, but now, no effect. He got the Wharf effect real quick. The first instance of it probably was about maybe 6 years ago. There was a very high profile incident where like it really was like the first time I was just like, all right, I'm not doing this anymore. To hell with it. And then it just kind of like kept creeping out after that. You used to be big and bad and scary back in the early 2000s and like early 2010s, but by that midpoint of this past decade, that's done. Well, you get why I'm making the comparison of like there was a person who at a certain time was like really scary or you were intimidated by, and now they're nothing. They're just whatever. Like, ooh, they might get angry at me for the 1 billionth time. And you're right, it is very redundant because when you understand, Megumi, that you can only tell somebody the same 4 or 5 things before it just, we talked about this before, becomes a self-parody. So like if I get angry at you for not showing up to my stream, like just as an example, you'd be like, "Man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to not come. I just had some stuff going." But you would kind of like be more surprised and angry because I've never reacted that way before. But if every time you come to one of my streams, Megumi, where were you, Megumi? You'd be like, "Okay, dude, you do this every time I don't come to one of your." But you see how like if it becomes a common thing, your tolerance to it is strengthened because this is just what you do. This is just how you react. You got the wharf effect. Back in the day, so scary, so tough. And then what is it? Some years later, it loses its effectiveness slash surprise factor. Well, the thing is, like, it wasn't really a surprise, like the example I gave with the spin artist, but it was effective. Like, oh, you better do this, or this person's gonna, I don't know, spank you, or they'll yell at you, or whatever. Like, but now, and really, the last like several years, it's just like whatever. It's like, oh, this person said I was disrespectful for the 100th time. Oh, this person said it was my fault for the millionth time. You think I'm kidding? I used to at one point have like a thing where this one guy I know who's been in my life since I was a kid, me and this friend of mine, we had this joke about how when you speak to the spin artist, he has like the same 7 or 8 lines that maybe they get changed up a little bit, but it's all the like same basic premise, and you start like counting how many times. And that's why I say I always liked other relatives more than the current ones that are like getting this real prominence in this narrative, because a lot of the other ones I had, depending on what the situation was, they'd be on your side, they'd be opposed to, it just depended on what was like what the situation was. When you have someone who is like hell bent on saying this is your fault, that's your fault, this is your fault, it starts becoming redundant, as you said before, and it's not surprising, and they're not very effective when they convey this, because their default position is blame you, blame you, blame you, blame you, blame you. You just get sick of it. So he got the wharf effect. How can they really think they'd be taken seriously? Well, one of the things that they like to do is try to say, you know how people are with the age obsession. When I was your age, my uh parent or grandpa or uncle told me this and I didn't appreciate it, but eventually I listened to them. You know, they basically they just convince themselves that at some point you will like agree with them inevitably. And then when it doesn't happen year after year because you see through how full of crap they are, they just convince themselves that it's just taking a little bit longer. It's like, hey, I just say, hey, if you expect me to believe any of the stuff you're saying about these very critical things that you are not involved with actually improving, then don't hold your breath. I'd sooner believe in Santa than a lot of this garbage that they spew out. Like, oh, I love this person so much. That's why after they stopped living with me, I didn't call them for over half a year to see how they were. So concerned. What was I gonna say? I'm trying to think of something. Dude, I have a huge disdain for people like that. Yeah, you're not the only one. I have a lot of disdain. In fact, actually, when I got called by that person, I had to be coached not to speak in a less than cordial manner, I should say. Unfortunately, I do have some relatives that act that way too. Oh, they're everywhere. I mean, remember I told you that I traded one poison for another when I was telling you about those two relatives and how they don't like each other, but they do similar type stuff. And I'll still say that the one from that I left from is the bottom of the barrel. Because that you have to understand that person reacted to something in a way that I just don't think was necessary, and that created a domino effect where there's all this other weird stuff that's happened because of that. Like if this person hadn't have said, what they said, then I wouldn't have left from there, which means that I wouldn't have had to be charged whatever the amount was before. You know what I'm saying? Like you can like track all the stuff that's happened since then with regard to my living situation, you know, with having its catalyst be what that person did. So my desire to speak to them or be around them is next to nothing. I really, if I never saw them again, I'd live a lot longer. I'm telling you, it's funny how there's so many instances where um people just they I don't know, it's like I sometimes I wonder, do they convince themselves of the things that they say, and then that's why they sound so like not convincing as in like they're getting me to believe it, but they sound as if they believe it, or are they just good actors? Because this person's talking about, oh, I'm trying to make sure that you're all right. I'm like, idiot, who are you trying to convince? How do you not call somebody for over half a year and say that you care about them? Like, what a joke. But you know what I'm saying? Of like, I, I guess from my perspective, whether it was my, I don't know, cousin, nephew, niece, son, daughter, parent, I just couldn't imagine that there's someone I care about who they leave from where I live because of the crazy thing I said in response to them doing something I didn't like. And then as a sign of me caring about them, I make no attempt to contact them whatsoever for over half a year. But this is why I told you I live in the twilight zone. I have these very weird people that I have the misfortune of sharing blood with. Um, like I even had one of them. They told me, "Oh, why don't you call this up?" I said, "Why waste the oxygen?" Like I'm not even kidding to you. I would rather sit here and do a stream that literally no one comes to with zero viewers and just talk into the camera for 2 hours than talk to one of them for 5 or 10 minutes or even shorter amounts of time. Because at least if I do a stream and nobody comes to it, they can still watch the replay, still be entertained. But like, there's nothing constructive or productive that comes from me talking to either of them. And you're right, they just don't care. But they try to convince you that they do, and they have all these little ways they can twist themselves in the pretzels of getting out of anytime you trap them with the logic that you have. And it goes back to my point of how these people, they'll be the first ones to tell you to be responsible for something, but they will never be accountable for anything that comes out of their mouth, anything that they do. They are to blame for nothing, and you are to blame for everything. That's the way to put it. Megumi's favorite relative just died, and I can't I love Megumi so much that I can't say anything to him when his favorite relative dies. There's clearly something wrong with me, right? If I like him so much, but I can't say something to him when his favorite relative dies. Oh no, Megumi, you're just not a very inviting person. Oh, Megumi doesn't want to go on a trip with me to a foreign country, and Megumi's reasoning is that we don't actually spend any time together in the same city that we live in. So why would he want to go to a foreign region with me if we don't even hang out in the same town that we live in? But no, there's something wrong with Megumi. He is being the weird one by not wanting to go to another country with people that barely talk to him when they both live in the same damn city. He's being the weird one. Oh my god. I swear this stuff should be a cartoon. Now, Megumi, I know you probably didn't see this, but there was actually someone who, so on that video I did of the over 40, how does that even work? I remember you telling me about that before. It is weird. Like, dude, I went on my trip to Alabama and Georgia back in March, and I think I mentioned I felt like lonely, being by myself. Even though I did enjoy the trip or whatever, it's just not something I'd probably do again just by myself. But it's like people who have gone to different states and countries, but have never once asked you to go with them, and don't even hang out with you when they're in the same damn city and or house as you, want you to go with them to some random region that you have no desire to go to. It'd be one thing if they came up and they said, "Hey, Megumi, I know you've been trying to." I'm just giving you an example. I know you've been trying to go to Texas, right? Well, I'm thinking of going out there in 2 weeks. How about you go with me? Because see, then that's something that aligns with what you want to do as well. And like you see what I'm saying of how it's really you're just like the tag along to whatever BS they want to go on. Oh, you weren't here for the earlier part of the stream where I was talking about how on that same video about how there's this like big increase of people that are over 40 who've never been married. There's a woman who left a comment and she was like, "What happened to my comment? Is this a sign I should unsub?" And I was so weirded out because usually if a comment gets hidden manually by YouTube or like deleted by a mod, I can go and check and see where it, and I don't see any past comment from her. So at first I thought it was like like a troll or something. But then I saw where she left some normal comments before that on some other stuff, and I'm just like, what is the purpose of this? But I think I told you that I did a video where some guy came on there and he was like, "I was thinking of subscribing, but," and I was like, do these people really think I care? Like, when are they going to get the memo that the subscribers are out and views are in? Like, she actually said in response to her perceived belief that her comment was deleted by, I swear I didn't even see a comment from her on that video. I saw yours and some other guy, and she's like, "Is this a sign I should unsub?" I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Your comment gets deleted by either the service or someone that's not me, and then you're gonna unsub for me. And then like tell like again, if I want to unsub from somebody, I'm just unsubbing. I'm not gonna leave any farewell message or you broke my heart now no, I'd be gone. I don't need to declare I'm unsubbing. I would just unsub if I was actually gonna do it. But I was saying that, if Sharon unsubbed, this would be the end of my channel. I mean, if you lose Sharon, you've lost the whole internet. Because remember, Megumi, when Sharon subscribed to me, I didn't even have 10 subs. When Sharon subscribed to me, I didn't have any views. I had 0 views. Megumi says they always seem to have the urge to announce they are unsubbing, but this happened on a past stream you did. No, they left this comment on the I'm forgetting the video's title, but it was a video about how Americans over the age of 40 are like having higher chances of not getting married. Like it's reached a new record high. And I was saying that I've seen them leave comments before that were normal. So when they leave this weird comment like, "Should I like what?" But like I said, man, I'm really gonna be in the toaster if Sharon unsubs because that was the woman who made me. I mean, forget my mother. We can throw her to the back burner. But if Sharon goes, I mean, what? Why are we even here? Megumi, everything we do has to be in service of her. If it weren't for Sharon, I wouldn't have any subscribers. If it weren't for Sharon, I wouldn't have any views. If it weren't for Sharon, I wouldn't be drinking anything. Yeah, she transformed my channel. By the way, Megumi, what's kind of funny when I hear the unsubscribe thing is that I've actually looked at my channel's analytics. I'm not even trying to brag about this. My views, so there's a feature where you can go to analytics, you can click last 365 days and it compares this year to last year. My views, and if you don't believe me, I will screenshot this and put it in my community tab. My views are up from last year by 96%. And the subscribers are like 70%. The only thing that's down is revenue. But I mean, I don't do this for money. So I guess what I'm confused by is like, I'm getting more views than ever, but I'm supposed to like be scared of someone unsubbing. And then the unsubbing stuff isn't even making a difference because like I'm at 2.4. I've never had that many subs. I just think it's funny. It's like I will unsub. It's like, okay, but people that doesn't hurt me more. Like I don't care about subs. I've already said that repeatedly. 100 people can unsub tomorrow. I wouldn't even blink because I'm not in this for subs. I just think it's funny that they're really like they're really pushing that stuff. Like I'm supposed to be cowering in fear. Oh my god, somebody might unsubscribe. What am I gonna do? Like I said, subs matter only until you get to 1,000, and really once you get to 1,100, you're pretty much set because most people, once they subscribe to a channel, they're locked in. Um, and that's why I think it's funny that they're doing the whole like thing about like I mean I already said before, I'd be more respectful of subs if they actually as a collective watch the people they subscribe to, but since they don't, I could take them or leave them. I'm just like whatever. I think it is because a lot of people are so fixated on subs and the appeal of having a high sub. Oh yeah, I've seen plenty of videos where you watch it and you'll see like the little they have like a little mouse that clicks the subscribe button, then they click the bell icon. And I'm like, I bet if you look through my whole channel, you'll never find a video where I'm like, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe. I bet. I bet if you look through my entire backlog, you will never find a video where I said, if you like this video, please subscribe or continue hitting our maybe hit our bell icon or what. You never see that. I have a problem with the bell icon though, because it gives you notifications, but I mean, you get my point that like I've never been like, hey, please subscribe. No, this also can be applied to sites like Twitch as well. Yeah. Like I said before, Twitch and YouTube, they're they have different philosophies for views. Like YouTube is set up to where you are incentivized to watch multiple people, and Twitch doing that live stream stuff is really everyone competing with each other. And I've never really found the people who are on top of Twitch to be that impressive, if you know what I mean. Like I watch I've seen clips of their stuff. I'm like, this is really the person that thousands are watching. That's who you're all flocking to, really? I don't know. I guess I just imagine if there's like some big giant 1,000+ views streamer, right? It's going to be someone who's really smart, who's funny. I'm just saying, like I don't look at that site and think anything on there is cool. Like the prospect of getting paid sounds somewhat exciting, but I'm not going to act like I'm mesmerized by a check from the internet because I've already received a few from here. So it's like it doesn't do anything for me. So yeah, that whole site is just whatever. Honestly, if you gave me the option between trying to become a Twitch streamer or trying to become a mod on Wikipedia, I probably would pick the latter. And I already said before, I'm done with WikiPiss. Like, I'll edit on there every maybe couple of weeks or a month, but we're full anarchists with that site. If they mess with me the way they did 3 or 4 years ago, it's gonna be a bloodbath. Where I'm gonna be typing so much nasty stuff, they're gonna just have to get rid of me. And I'll screenshot all of it before they delete it so that there's a record of it. But after the way I was treated, we're the fantasy of being given any kind of accolade on there is gone. So like I said, they have one more time to mess with me the way that guy did, and if they do, it's not going to be pretty. I'm going to write some of the grossest stuff that's probably ever been typed on that website. And like I said, I'm not trying to, do this on purpose, but if they start screwing with me the way that they did several years back, it's not going to be turn out too well for them. And I'd love to make why I hate Wikipedia Redux. That'll be a great video. I think I'm kidding. Every time I went on those editing websites, I just sat back one day and I said, you know what? No matter what I do for these stupid sites, they're never going to thank me. They're never going to say, hey, good job. Or if they do, it's very, very, very rare. Maybe like once every 5 years if you're lucky. They're never going to make me a mod. They're going to just keep deleting my stuff and trying to insult me with all these little subtle jabs. So if they do it again, dude, with like those little personal wikis on that one website where it's like for different topics, those are even worse because you'll have some guy who's the moderator literally just cuz. Like they're not writing anything that you or I couldn't write. They're not doing anything that you or I couldn't do. They're just the mod because they made the wiki or whatever, like some circumstance that was just a thing that they happen to be there at the right time. And they will make up rules as they go along. Like I still can't go over the guy that was trying to argue with me about the trivia section and we shouldn't put character interactions and if we put information about an actor, it should go on the actor's page instead of the character's page, even though the actor plays the goddamn character and it's describing what they did to play the character. It was like I said, I left that site alone because that guy kept finding stupid stuff to have a problem with me over. But if he did that one more time, let's just say I wasn't going to care too much about editing on there again, and I was going to make sure that the stuff I wrote was as bad as it could possibly be. Because like I said, at this point, I'm a full-on nihilist. Like I have accepted that there is a certain almost antagonism that's just like baked into these people, where they see those who contribute more as pests than as like helpers or aides or allies. So they have one more time on each one of those sites to mess with me, and they're gonna see some stuff written that they haven't seen on there before. And no amount of what do you call it? Oh, we're gonna erase this off. None of that's gonna be able to save them. Because every time I write something, I'll be screenshotting it. You see, I really don't want to see majority of people on there like that. I don't either, but the unfortunate thing is when you have those really small wikis that only maybe like 5-10 people edit per year, the mod turns into the mods are basically like Discord server owners where they just make up stuff as they go along. They get into these like weird ego trips where they want to tell somebody what to do, even if it's something that the person editing wouldn't have even known about to begin with because it wasn't a rule that you wrote down anywhere. So like I said, it's more harm than it's good. But the stuff you relay about them makes me think these people are so antagonistic to others to fulfill their egos. I'm telling you, man, I'll never forget for as long as I live when that guy came on my talk page on WikiPiss and tried to tell me that he disagreed with my editing philosophy and was like going through all my edits and talking about how bad. And I'm just sitting thinking to myself, This website doesn't pay me a goddamn penny, and this guy's talking to me like I'm like a customer service representative or some employee at a company. Like, give me a break. In real life, I wouldn't even sit here and listen to this dude for 2 seconds. Certainly not for free. And I had just at that point never seen them do that to somebody where they get to just go on someone's page, talk trash about them, and the person will sit there and respond back. That's why it felt good to screenshot all that stupid trash and do a video about it. Because I'm like, hey, well, we can take this off that site where you can't delete anything. Because I already said before, I don't even like talking to people in text. Because every time you do, they respond to like you write like a whole paragraph, they respond to like 2 sentences. So like I said, all those little stupid sites, they're on their last leg. And they do make up rules on a whim. Not on on WikiPiss, they just contradict themselves. Like on there, they literally just they'll be like, "Oh, the Megumi article is 200,000 bytes. We need to chop it down." And then you'll be like, "Wait a second. The article on let me just try Banana Merchant is 350,000 bytes. This article is damn near twice as big as the Megumi page, and nobody's talking about chopping that one. Shh, be very, very quiet." And you'll be sitting there like, what the hell? But they do that. They pick and choose what's important and what isn't, who gets to have a big page, who doesn't, who needs to have 900 sub articles. Like, that's why I said that site is, it is, Wikipedia is a site that would be so much better if it had a competitor and some other free encyclopedia. Because I think it's really dangerous having this small group of guys get to determine what's important and what isn't. Especially when you consider that there's a lot of stuff on that site that has an article, but it's not that long, not because there's nothing to say about it, but because the people that edit on that site are too damn lazy to go and improve it or find stuff for it. No, they love making up the rules on a whim. I've decided today you can't write in my on my stream in red ink. Like, it's just they just make stuff up as they go along. And that other one I was on was really awful because it's like that place didn't even have a rules section. Like, it literally was the mod being like, all right, you just edited this page. I don't like what you wrote, so I'm just gonna delete your stuff. And if you don't like it, get out of here. That's all right. This is stupid. I can go to other wikis with way more people editing and not have this kind of harassment. Well, I told you that these editing sites, they're seen sometimes by a lot of people, but if you actually try to be a constructive member of them and you're not part of like the clique, or there's someone on top of you that doesn't like what you're doing, then you can just say forget it. Why can't they just leave stuff alone? Why do they want to tamper with it? Because they want to control everything. If I go on Megumi's article and I write 3 sentences about his early life, I'll be lucky if no one has a problem with that. I could come back and maybe they cut it down to 1 sentence, or maybe they just delete it altogether. Because I've seen that too. They're like, "Oh, this is too much detail." I'm like, according to who? Like, so I said it's just at every point they're always looking for something to have a problem with, and I just don't have the patience for it. That I like 10 years ago when I was like in high school or whatever, I could sit on my computer all Saturday and Sunday and just type and add stuff and look for something here. But now I don't. I just have become very disgruntled with the whole thing. Too much detail. How nitpicky can you get? What does that even mean? It means whatever they want it to mean. It you could write two sentences and they'll say it's too much detail. You could write three sentences, they'll say it's too much detail. Hell, you could even write one sentence, and they'll just say it doesn't matter. It's not important. Like if I said Megumi growing up had a best friend named Snowball, who he would go and play in the sand with. They some of those pricks could be like, hey, Snowball isn't in any of the later parts of Megumi's life, so let's get rid of that. We don't need to know about Snowball. We can bury him in the snow. We're gonna scrub him. Like you don't even have to be into the because Wikipedia has stuff on all types of different stuff, but it's that's just my point that like no matter what you write, you're always gonna have to sit there and hold your hand and hope that they don't, decide to mess with it. Megumi, you can only write 3 comments per 30 minutes because if you write any more, that's too much detail. That's a new rule I've decreed right now. So I said I'm tired of that stupid site. Man. Like I said, all those editing sites, they need to go. I'm cutting them out of my life. I tried to be nice. I tried to be patient, but my resolve has really worn thin. There's too much punishment and too little reward. I'm trying to think what else happened this week. There was some other weird thing that occurred. There was something else that was weird that happened. Man, the sun does not waste any time coming up over here. It really is. It's amazing. What was it? Oh yeah, I had my friend threw a so I wanted to go over his place for 4th of July. Just to like barbecue and do whatever little celebrations people do because I normally don't go anywhere for it anyway, but I just was kind of like wondering. And I called him later that day and he was like, "Oh, you can come over." And I was like, "Wait, that's kind of weird. Why would I have to come over at 8 or 9 o'clock in the night?" And when I went over his place the next day, I realized why he wanted me to come over 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Because on 4th of July, he wasn't outside looking at fireworks or barbecuing. He was inside looking at red and white and possibly blue striped bed sheets. He was getting some fourth poon. I mean, God, my thing is, if people are going to do stuff like that on a day like that, at least be discreet about it. Because when I came over to the next day and I saw where he had that room, there's like a thing in math where it's like the top left and top right and bottom left and bottom right, and you got the room cornered off in 4 ways where all these different chicks are supposed to be. I mean, like my thing is, again, like don't have that up the next day if you know somebody's gonna come in your house. That was nasty. I don't even like to criticize people over their romantic choices, but it was just like realizing that was why I wasn't invited earlier in the day because he was getting some uh, four adventures in July on the 4th of July. So I won't be trying to go over his place again on that holiday. So that's really weird. Why do I have to wait until 8 or 9 o'clock at night to celebrate a holiday? Oh, because over there they're doing stuff all day. I actually had a cousin that was born in August of 2007, and I just I didn't I went over there the next day to like get something, like get, they have like leftovers from the holiday. I didn't go over there to be part of any orgy. I wasn't there on 4th of July. I was given an offer to show up later in the day, but I turned it down because I don't really like driving at night. So I didn't get to witness or be part of the festivities of these women and their nasty affairs with this guy. Trust me, I'd rather return home as well. I didn't return home. I stayed there. I was stationed at the fort. I forgot to tell you. They had Terminator 3 free on YouTube. I watched it. I was so shocked when that came up because, as far as I can tell, usually they don't have blockbusters on YouTube for free. That's like the that, as far as I can tell from some of the stuff that they offer on there. I had a pretty enjoyable time with it. I liked it. I'd say for me, and this is more so just a problem with a lot of these different series. It's always harder for me to get invested in the character when they're recast or played by a different actor. So like I know Edward Furlong had some problems or whatever, but it's harder to like feel as if 3 is a sequel to 2 when you had Sarah die off screen and you have her son come back, but then he's played by somebody else. It's like, yeah, you can tell me this is the same character, but I mean, I know these are still 2 different people. But I liked it. I liked the female that they had. She was intimidating. Um, it was decent. I think it's really hurt by how definitive the ending for 2 was. Like, I'm not even one of those people that's like all the ones after the second one are, because there are people that do that, but the end in the 2 is just so good. When he goes into that vat and puts the thumb up as he's just being just decimated, as his final act of fatherly acceptance towards the boy who he's grown attached to. It's really hard to write something that overwrites that, like goes beyond that. I am the same too when it comes to characters being recast. By the way, speaking of characters and recast, when they and I'm not even telling you to go watch that movie because it is trying to be Terminator 3, but I don't like it as much as the actual Terminator 3. But the opening scene of Dark Fate, where they have the CGI that de-ages Linda Hamilton, and they get this body double to basically be John, but they also get a deep fake for Furlong's face on. So basically, they use de-aging to make both, to basically recreate Terminator 2, Sarah Connor and John Connor. Man, that CGI looks so good. I like that. I'm not even like the biggest fan of that movie. That CGI at the start of Dark Fate looks terrific. It looks better than most of the stuff in Marvel movies. It looks better than most of the CGI I've seen in any damn modern movie. It looks really good. I wish, instead of making some weird all female movie where you kill John at the start of it, I wish they had tried to Like actually do Terminator 3 with Cameron. Like do one that's set a couple years after 2 that, has both Sarah and John years after supposedly defeating Skynet, and go from there. Like show us what does this alternate timeline look like? Are there still evil robots? Are they still trying to kill them? What's the new strategy? What's going on? That CGI looks so good, man. I'm not even someone who usually gets caught up on special effects and ooh, this is pretty, but damn it, I guess I hate so much that we have technology like that, and they'd rather, instead of continuing with characters that we actually like and are connected to, they rather introduce some new ones that are nowhere near as memorable. But I think you get what I'm saying. Terminator 3 is like a fine, I guess, in my opinion, close out to a trilogy, but it still feels disconnected by virtue of John being played by somebody else. Because it means the only actor that's consistent through all three is Arnold. Everybody else is a one and done or a two and done. I had a joke. I said I wish I could recast my relatives. We get some new people like with the same name to play them. It's like, hey, they didn't have good chemistry with Justin, so they're going back to the casting couch. Yeah, and let's not forget about the attachment viewers may have towards the former actor who played the character. Yeah, and John's one of the most infamous examples of being recast. Like he's played by, I'm forgetting most of these actors' names, so you're gonna have to forgive me. But we see a adult version of him in the first movie, if I remember correctly. And then we got the Furlong version, which to me is the real version because that's the one we spend the most time with in comparison with the one from the first movie. But then we get the guy in the third film, then Christian Bale, Batman as him in Terminator Salvation. Then I mean some other guy in Genesis that plays like an older adult version of him. You know what I'm saying? It's he just gets recast so much. It's almost like, I hate to make this comparison, but it's like the name becomes this thing that just gets tossed around. There's not really a face to it, you know? Like when I think of Sarah Connor, I think of Linda Hamilton because that's the person who's played her the most. Like, yeah, they had Amelia Clark for Genesis, but that was one movie that was supposed to be a trilogy, but it so the one that people are going to be most familiar with is the one that was in the first movie, the second one, and Dark Fate. I still can't believe they got her to come back after 20 something years for that. Like to get an original actor to come back, you would think it'd be the best, most amazing script, but nah, it's whatever. No, I can't wait to watch the first Terminator again. It really does feel like a horror movie. Like they know he knows he has to kill Sarah Connor, but he doesn't know what she looks like. So anybody with that name, you better hope that you're not home when he comes knocking. Dude, I remember when Hamilton got announced, people were so excited. It's just like when they announced the sequel trilogy, people were excited to have Fisher and Hamill and Ford back for to play Leia, Luke, and Han. But when the movie came out, yeah, some people liked it. Some weren't really happy. I know a lot of people were irritated that Luke was a cameo in episode 7. And then when episode 8 came out, that's when it all went to hell in a handbasket. That's got to be one of the most divisive movies ever. I'm not kidding. I mean, I'm noticing a trend where when somebody comes back to play some character they haven't played in 10, 20, 30 years, they get a script that just doesn't go along with the hype of seeing them again. I mean, I haven't seen Indiana Jones 5, but I'm seeing reviews of it and it's not going too well for him. And, that's a damn shame because there were already people who said the fourth one wasn't good. So it's like they dusted this series off after over 10 years and they made a movie that people are saying is not good either. Again. So you're gonna have you have this trilogy that everybody says is so great, and then you get a movie that's kind of like 50-50, then another one that's like 60-40 or whatever, like 40-60. I'm just saying, it seems like a lot of times just like I was really excited that Michael Keaton was coming back to play Batman for the first time in 30 years in The Flash. I watched that stupid movie and it's like, yeah, he's in it. He's got some, I guess, cool action sequences, but he doesn't have an arc. He's not developed in any way I would think is meaningful. He's just kind of there. Someone's over there honking their horn. You know what I'm saying? Like every time an actor comes back and they play a character I like, it just seems as if there's like it's like a preordained thing that the script they're gonna get is not that good. I'm telling you, man, Terminator really is the series that out of any of them I might feel the most like just perplexed by because like the idea of robots from the future that are gonna like destroy humanity in this big apocalyptic event. And there's this savior that we have to protect, and he's got to make it to that thing. It's crazy that that a concept like that they just keep, they, not being able to. Because you're like, how did the first and second one get so well received, but then the sequels after that, everybody's so divided on, Look, No Way Home was a movie that had one of the most bizarre series of events leading up to it I've ever seen, where you've got these edited trailers that get rid of the other Spider-Man in it. And I think again, I just believe it was an all right movie. Honestly, between between that movie, Dark Fate, Flash, any of the other examples I've given, I'd rather watch No Way Home over any of them. Like No Way Home at its worst is a 7 out of 10 for me, which is still something I would consider good. Like, and I've said this before, um, a movie is more than just the sum of its parts. So I've said that like No Way Home's script is not that strong as far as like the sequence of events that causes the villains to appear, but the performances are really good. Um, I was emotionally invested in the story, so it's I think it has enough redeeming qualities. I'm not going to say I was necessarily hyped into it. There were parts that I'm like, yeah, this is great, and then a lot of other parts was like, okay, whatever. But I think it is at its worst good, and that's more than I can say for a lot of this other stuff. You understand? For me, the hype really wasn't as big of a deal because, like I said before, I've never really been much into these live action versions of Spider-Man after the Raimi trilogy. Like I think I told you before, the only one of those I saw in theaters was the first TASM, and then the second one came out and everybody said it was awful. So like, okay, well I guess I'll just wait till this comes out on DVD. Um, then when no, excuse me, when Homecoming came out, I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. They got Batman to play the villain, but I'll see what people say about it. And I was hearing about, oh, he's Iron Boy and whatever. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll wait until next one. Then that one came out. I was like, oh, whatever. And then in the lead up to No Way Home, they're talking about bringing Doc Ock back from Spider-Man 2. I was like, oh my God, really? And that's what got me excited to, go out and see one of those in theaters again. I don't think I've mentioned this to you before, but I would have been perfectly fine if like because people were saying, oh, I'm not going to watch the movie if Garfield and Maguire are in it. I would have been perfectly fine if they weren't in it. If it was just the MCU version of Peter fighting all these different villains from across the multiverse, I'd be fine with that. Because I'm like, what I'm saying, that they in that movie they don't really have arcs. They're just kind of there to be supporting characters, which is whatever to me. But like, I honestly, I if I see Maguire's version again, I'd rather he just be the lead character. Like, take his villains that you wouldn't put in the fourth movie and stick him in No Way Home, and then have him in his own movie. I'm just saying, I would have been perfectly fine if that whole movie was just the singular version of Peter from the MCU versus Doc Ock and Goblin and Electro and whichever other villains they want to throw in there, and then they do Spider-Man 4 and TASM 3 or whichever two they want to. You know what I'm saying? That like I would rather have the main character of a movie trilogy get another film as the main character than be a supporting character that shows up over an hour plus in someone else's crap. Oh, absolutely. I already said before, you could take Electro and not Electro, excuse me. You could take Lizard and Sandman and cut them out, and you would miss nothing. They have no bearing on the plot whatsoever. That movie was really crowded. That movie was more crowded than Infinity War. Infinity War was the big war movie with all the characters in it. And I can have an easier time remembering what all the characters in that movie did, including the henchmen, than the damn most of the characters in No Way Home. Oh man. I've always been so interested in how a lot of times actors will date each other, and I guess the reason I find it interesting is because I've always believed that the point of acting is you can kind of like play a character, you can become something that you might not necessarily be. So when you fall in love or otherwise show some kind of romantic interest in someone that you play the love interest for, or otherwise are supposed to, have some type of fictitious attachment to, I just think that's really interesting because it really is life imitating art in a lot of cases. Oh, it's like some of these people just they will stand on one street corner for the whole morning and afternoon. It's crazy. Like they have nothing to do but just sit there. Not even sit there. They just stand in one spot for the whole for like 2 or 3 hours or even longer. Yeah, people can be really weird sometimes. No, sometimes I'll really notice where there'll just be someone like if I do a stream again, the point is I'm up here to do the thing and not have any interruptions. Some of these people will sit on the corner and it could be either sitting or standing for a whole hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and they're not even doing anything. They're just like watching cars drive by. It is interesting when you observe how people conduct themselves during their day outside in public. You see a lot of things absolutely. Like I've seen couples express, PDA, right, public display of affection, but it was just so like usually when I saw it, it was kids I went to school with, the 4 or 5 couples that were in high school with me. I swear I've never just seen adults all hugged up on each other until that one particular day I was up here and I was like, "Are you serious?" It's like you bastards really want me to believe that when you're at home, sit in the privacy of your place, nobody's there to watch, nobody's there to observe. You're just standing hugged up on each other going telling you, man, they do that stuff just to mess with other people. There's no other reason to do it than to just be a douchebag. I don't care what anybody says. That's all done to try and get the attention of other people. I guess for me, I just couldn't imagine. Like I'll say before, I'm like kind of to an extent timid when it comes to certain physical acts in public. I think I'm a lot more comfortable when I'm with someone else. But for the life of me, I just couldn't imagine. Even if I was like dating someone, I just couldn't imagine going in front of any restaurant, business, whatever, and just being all hugged up on this person and staring into their eyes. And I don't know. I just think that's weird. I really do. I think people they do stuff like that just for attention, and they just want to cause a scene. They want you to look at them. and maybe they don't get enough attention from their partner in, other settings, which is why they go along with this stupid stuff. Whatever the reason is, I just keep noticing that like there's these really weird people that I don't know. I already said before, couples are strange to me. Um, but I talked before about how when I used to speak to chicks like more regularly, I guess still during the whole like dating thing or attempted dating thing, I would notice a lot of them were boring to talk to. Like it really dawned on me at that point that they're not these infallible, suave geniuses that know how to appeal to somebody. A lot of them really only get attention from men because we're desperate. Can't tell how many chicks I spoke to and I'm bored out of my mind because they're not into anything. Goes to show how weird and not content they are, even if they have a partner. Yeah, like they're overcompensating for something. Dude, imagine if you were a millionaire and you just went outside with your like, I don't know, with let's just say every day you walk outside, you hold a wad of $3,000 just in your hand. You just keep showing it to everybody. Look at me, I have 3K. You understand where first of all you get robbed, but secondly, you get where that's weird. Like, okay, you have money. Congratulations. Why do we need to know that you have money? Why is this something that we need to be made aware of? Why is this so important as for you to not only like it's whatever you have some you put in your car, whatever. Why is it so important for you to take it out and wave it around in our face? Imagine me getting the plaque from YouTube for hitting 100,000 subs, and like everywhere I go, I have the plaque with my name on it. Just as I'm walking around down the street, it's like why do we need to see that? Why does the world need to know that you have this stupid plaque with your name on it? I don't get it. I already said before, even if I had one of those things, I literally have nowhere to put it. It would just be sitting in the closet somewhere. And then like 50 years later, I have some other relatives like, hey, what's this? Like, oh, that's back from when I got a bunch of subs on YouTube. It's one of the weirdest things I've noticed. I said before, people just want attention. They want it any way they can get it. And they'll do all types of crazy stuff to just for the possibility of having it. It's really sad. I'm glad you've been noticing these weird things because they are weird. Let's not make any mistake about that. We've been seeing some very strange occurrences. I said before, partners as a like people spend a lot of time telling you about how great being with a woman is, but honestly, and we've talked about this before, when you're someone who's not as experienced with this stuff as you probably should be, if because we've talked before about like chicks screwing up men based off of their little, their crap. They don't factor in that a lot of these guys that never been with a woman before will think she's cheating on him, or will think she wants something out of him, like money. They don't mention any of the stuff that actually starts happening when you call yourself dating one of these bastards. Because they want you to believe that you do all this stuff and you get a date with a woman, then you ride off into the sunset. And no, though, if it's this hard just to get a date, imagine the nightmare it's going to be to try and maintain a relationship with one of them. You do one thing they don't like, oh, I'm breaking up with you, and then you're right back to square one. The worst part is when it's happening in a place you need to be in and blatantly in your face and difficult to unsee it. I'll always remember the image of those two sitting up acting like idiots. Because I was up here just to do my stream and I looked over and I saw that, and Oh, so obnoxious. It's very difficult to unsee it. Oh god, yeah, that's one of the scariest things about it. I'm serious when I say all these little stupid dating coaches and oh, if you do this, you can get a woman to fall in love with you. They never talk about what it's actually like to be with one of them. They almost never mention it. But see, this goes back to my point of how I'll never believe it's normal for a guy to have to talk to 10, 50, 100, 200, 300 chicks just to get one to go on a date. I'll never think that's a thing that you should have to do. And the fact that that is a thing a lot of us even think we have to do already shows how screwed up society has become. Um, but again, my point is that when you make it this hard to just get that first step of, hey, you go on a date with this person, you like spending time with them, you go on another one, and then after that you can call yourself a couple, whatever. When you make it so hard to get that first step, that first act, that initial spark or trigger, whichever way you want to refer to it, you by design are letting this person know, hey, if it was this hard to just get me to go on a date, imagine the terror, the nightmare, the horror of trying to stay with this person, having to appeal to them every day of every week, having them get mad when you don't text them back at a certain amount of time, thinking that they're cheating on you because they don't respond to you after several days or a week, or having or wondering if you're just going to wake up one day and they're like, all right, I'm sick of you. That's what I said, man. It's all just so rotten. And I've seen some chicks that try to do the friend zone thing, right? Oh, I think we can, we have so much but I already said before, this is a very selfish era where everybody's looking out for themselves, which is, something I understand, but it's like you can't you should never be content with giving someone what they want while you don't get what you want. I've said that before. So all that stuff about, hey, can we be friends? I roll my eyes. The only time I'm okay with that is if it's someone who I have no interest or desire in. Um, but like I said, that's like an outlier. That's not how normally it goes. A lot of times, actually, what I've noticed is with some of the chicks that I'm just speaking to in a casual manner. I don't even call them friends. I just say, "Oh, this is one of my acquaintances." They'll abruptly stop responding or just kind of like vanish altogether. So even if you had no problems with them at all, it's still difficult to talk to them and to really keep anything going. But yeah, like I said, man, when you're online, you just deal with conspiracy theories. Like I can't tell how many comments I read talking about, oh, you're gonna do something to a woman, and then at the same time they're accusing me of being into other men. So it's like you're going to be going after women in this aggressive manner while also being attracted. Not but these conspiracy theories, they run really deep. I mean, I remember at a certain point I had people wondering if I even had a mother. They started to think that I was hatched from some egg that my father spit out, like a certain green character, and it just became overwhelming. I mean, how much stuff can they make up? I really want to like draw that out, like just have a video of my dad spitting out it, like he's in the air for some reason, just and spits out the egg. No, go my son. I really want to make that. Call it my real origin. Make it a frame for frame remake of that episode. Sometimes I actually do take pictures of various busted up cars. I'm not even talking about like, oh, this got hit on the side or whatever. I'm talking about like whole pieces are off of it, windows shattered. I saw one lady get in the car where unfortunately it doesn't look like it is going to get any better either. Oh no. Well, this is just what I think will happen with that woman stuff. At some point, it could be in 10 years, it could be in 20 years. Men as a collect, not all of us, because there's going to be some who are stupid until the bitter end, but men as a group are going to do something that fundamentally transforms this feminist crap. So you're either going to see a bunch of guys just stop talking to them, just like altogether, like to hell with it, right? Um, or you're going to see, well, you probably are going to see some more gender violence, unfortunately. But you know, like I'm just saying, you're going to see men respond to them in like a way where they're just sick of this. And I think after that, more people will, because we're still at that point where they tried to make it sound like you're weird if you don't talk to a woman. It's not as much, but there's still people who believe that crap. So I do think sooner than later, and you know I say soon, I'm talking about like in the grand scheme of things, this will it will become so bad that a larger number of men will be like, yeah, this is insane. Like all this for a triangle. What's that one saying I like to use? The juice isn't worth the squeeze. I think eventually enough people will recognize it to avoid the triangle scam. And they'll tell these chicks to go back to the circus and they can take their big shoes and their small cars and go make balloon animals with some other guy. I'm not even joking. There's a person on a certain website who I met, and within 2 weeks of me meeting them, and I spoke to them maybe 4 or 5 times, they said they consider me a friend. And I was just sitting there thinking to myself, and like I'm not, they've been nice to me, so I'm not trying to insult them, but I was just sitting there thinking to myself, you don't even know my name. Like I don't know. I just I just think it's because again, I really don't want to insult them, but I personally don't find that to be like a normal thing. I know some people are really loose with that word, uh, but I'd like to imagine all the people I've considered friend I at least know the name of. Maybe I haven't seen their picture. Um, maybe I've never met their parents, but I at least know what their name is. It's weird, man. People they're moving at they make choices and make moves that I don't quite understand. You could tell it's warmed up outside. I had my window down and there was no sign of heat, and now all of a sudden I'm feeling a little bit of warmth coming in. Well, I already know what I'm doing. I'm going up to that market, grabbing the 2 or 3 things I need, and I'm going to my triumphant deep slumber. That'll be my last thing of the day. I do like it when you can run errands early and then just go back and rest or whatever. That is appealing to me. I'll admit it. I don't know. I really try not to be insulting when someone has a different because it's not like it hurts me that that person called me their friend. It's just like I made the point to them. I don't really know them that well, and they're like, oh well, I'm not interesting anyways. Like, yeah, but that's kind of not my point. It's more so like, hey, there's this person that you barely know, and you're calling them something that denotes familiarity. I don't know. Oh man, but yeah, it's been a pretty wacky week. We've had the reemergence of one strange character who I would have liked to have seen left in the dustbin of history. Although I'm pretty sure they're on their way out. I mean, when you go from living with somebody to just not hearing or seeing anything from them for a whole half a year, you do notice that. The thing is that they like to say, along with the spin artist, "Oh, I love him. He means so much to me." But I'm honest. I say I don't care about either one of them. I tell the truth. I say, hey, look, they don't make any attempt to reach out to me. One of them has done some stuff that I think is truly unforgivable, and for that reason, I'm just not interested. Because I always say I don't care if they don't reach out. It's just me pointing out, if I actually cared about someone, I would make an attempt to speak to them with at least some level of regularity. Like I even said to one person, like, "Hey, you call somebody once a month. That still is 12 calls a year. They don't even do that." I don't know. We just live in an era where people say things and then what they do is just happenstance. Every time I park somewhere, I'm always just mindful of like, hey, so when I pull out, cars coming quickly behind me, cars coming this way, that way, whichever way. They don't mean a lot of what they say. No, they don't. I'm not even just saying this to be funny. That girl that said that she considers me her friend, I'm more inclined to believe her. I'll put it this way. I'm more inclined to believe a girl I've only known for 2 weeks who said that they consider me a friend is telling the truth than I am the relatives who say they care about me but can't reach out for month after month after month after month in any way. Like I'm more likely to believe her, person I barely know, than these people that I've had the misfortune of being around for as long as I have. that's that's how backwards this is. Jim, you would show up at the last second. Listen, it was my intention to do a lot of things at the start of this month, at the end of last month. That was called the Secretary of State, with all the other things involved with that. But man, it's been a really wild ride, especially this week. And next week isn't going to look like it's going to be any less insane. So we might have to postpone that campaign launch until next month, unfortunately. Like I really don't know what's about to happen with these people and their little crazy thing they're doing. Well, I know you don't really like my streams anymore. You're more so watching the was it the George Soros streams? You're watching his Saturday sunrise service instead of mine. You get up in the morning to check out that billionaire, and he slides you some coins in the DMs. So I get that you're playing for the other team now. You've switched sides. You've done a what TV tropes calls a face heel turn. So if we got swimming lessons on Saturday mornings, well, yeah, but that's only because what was that pack? Friends for DeSantis, they donated the boat to you, so now you can go around. He's like, hey, I can't take the boat out if I can't swim, so that they're financing both the boat and the swimming lessons after you gave Ron that ringing endorsement. You know, apparently they were messing with his wife on Twitter so much that she locked her account. I looked on there today, she locked her account. And I know it wasn't like that before because I wasn't following her, but I noticed that a few like within the last few days it was locked. So they must have really been going after her. Dude, somebody wrote the weirdest comment on that video I did on Ramaswamy. They were like, "That's just your opinion. If you don't think he's that good, why don't you debate him? Or do you have the guts?" I'm like, what? Why would a presidential candidate debate a random person on YouTube that said they don't get their appeal? Who's not even like I'm not even like a conservative commentator, so he literally gets nothing out of speaking to me in like any reasonable way. But then also, why would I be scared to talk to a guy that I don't even think is that smart? Like I think Shapiro is someone I'd be more nervous of debating because he has this thing where he talks really fast like this and it makes people feel uncomfortable. But as far as these other ones, nah. Usually they just lie. That's okay for sympathy and attention. You know how it is. They always are making it sound like they're under attack and being persecuted. Like I said, I'm trying to do this campaign, man. It's been a really hard several months. Um, the only good thing is the views are up. I can say that. I told Megumi this earlier. I looked on my analytics. The views are up 96% from last year. That's like the only piece of good news. No, don't congratulate me yet because I already know how unstable this site is. You can be on, you can have 1,000 views one day and two the next. So you won't see me celebrating. This is a man. I'm not even joking. There are some women in this world that are so unappealing to me that like, I'm not even gonna say it. I'm not even gonna say it. This site is really unstable. Well, Megumi, we went through the fact that there's a lot of channels where it's like they have like 100,000 subs, but then you go and you look at their video views and it's like 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. So it's nothing to really gawk at. By the way, Megumi, have you ever seen a couple where there's like a guy who's like an average build or he's in shape and then he's with some woman who's very obviously on the heavy side? Have you ever seen that? Because I'm seeing that right now. And, like the thing I always try to say when we mention that is like I'm not saying if someone is whatever amount of weight then right. But But you get my point. You can't sit here and talk all this crap about go to the gym and exercise and get muscles, all this other garbage, when you've got women that again, they're forget exercise and they don't even they're not even like just in the most basic of health. I mean, come on. No, like and like we clearly know the guy doesn't share eating habits because the guy's perfectly, normal. Yep, way too many times as well. Well, Jim, I don't know about money. Like there are I'm sorry, but there's some chicks, it doesn't matter how many coins you gave them. Oh yeah, we talked about that before, Jim, that in the United States, African American women were, what was it, 4 out of 5 of them are overweight. I have to look at the other. I'm not as memorized with the other ethnic groups, but we know that women, that obese women is like a thing we're seeing more and more of. But see, I told you that's what happens when you have a society that shames one gender and bashes the other. Because really, there should be a push and say, hey, you know what? You want to wear whatever you want to wear, okay, whatever. You want to, that's cool, but your weight can kill you. If you get too big, it can lead to devastating consequences for your health. But when you're doing the body positivity stuff and all the rest of that crap, they're fine with it because they aren't really being encouraged to keep in shape or take care of themselves. No, they this is the anything goes society with women. You can have women that have multiple children with other men. You can have women that are overweight. You can have women that own nothing, that live in a box. And as long as they have that triangle, there's going to be someone out there who will accept them and make sure they're all right or be open to, and it's not because they're terrific or they're so great or they're better than you or me. It's because men don't have anything. We don't have anywhere near the amount of attention that chicks get from men. We'll be lucky if we get a woman to come up and speak to us in real life once, let alone, you know, you get what I'm saying. That's why they're at this advantage. Social media promotes the. I mean, sure, but these people do this off the computer. Like the internet can't make them eat. They choose to. Like as I'm sitting here looking at this, I'm not even trying to be funny. The guy, and I normally don't even talk about the way men look, but he's just a normal, regular guy, normal, regular weight guy. Just I maybe he goes to the gym, maybe he doesn't, but he's fine. Which is why I was so surprised when he got out the car with this, lady, and like that's like I said, man, I'm just tired of people trashing my appearance and then they're okay with that. But remember, we talked about the about that triangle scam, man. It lets people's minds play tricks on them. She will have every excuse. Dude, I swear, after all the years of people talking trash about the way I look, and then I'm seeing like the stuff I'm seeing is just so funny. And I'm looking at it right now, all this makeup, long hair. She has some really nice hair. That's actually a thing I've noticed with some of these different chicks. They'll take care of themselves in other ways. Like they'll stick all this makeup on their face and have tattoos and have long, really nice, luscious long hair. But man, when it comes to that weight, I already said before, if that's what my option is, I'd rather just stay alone. Like people get mad at men for having standards, but some stuff I just can't I just can't close my eyes and be okay with. I'm sorry. So somebody will get mad, but oh well. I'm just telling the truth. Jim, you're not one to talk. You've had every excuse for some of the explicit things you've had to say about people. Another thing I've heard is that the birth control increases their weight due to the hormones. Yeah, doesn't it slow down their metabolism? I'm really not joking when I say that I'm really starting to not see that many big guys. Like it's mostly just women now. Like I'm not even trying to be funny. When I go out for a walk or I just go to a public place, I'm not joking. It's like every time I see someone who is true, because there are some people who are just kind of like round a little bit. Maybe they have like a little bit of a belly, whatever. But you know what I'm talking about, like the thick arms and the kind of like what's a good way of explaining it? Like basically, anytime I see someone that is on the heavier side, it now tends to mostly be women. Yeah. Because there are some people where it's like, okay, maybe they're not in the best of shape, but you wouldn't call them overweight. Because you can not exercise and still not be becoming what I'm talking about, being you get my point, that it's one of those things where I'm just like, if there's someone that's athletic or muscular, it's a guy. If there's someone who's like normal, regular weight, it's a guy. Maybe some women too. But like, if there's someone who's got kind of like the bigger length arms, and they're kind of, it seems to mostly almost always just be women. Like I'm not really seeing any guys that are like that at this point, outside of on the internet. But you can see anything on here like that. Husky. So I'm not even trying to be some kind of like Weight Watcher or anything. I don't even like talking trash about people's appearance, but I'm just saying I'm noticing a trend where the like I'm it's like lesser and less men, at least the young ones anyway. Ones that are like under 50 are overweight, but then there's like a lot of. I'm telling you, man, that's something I just keep noticing. Your observations are accurate. Hopefully, the voters say that next year too, huh? So why'd you vote for him? His observations were accurate. I remember when you were telling me that I would win if I like I'm fully running just as someone who wants to try it, and see how it goes. But if I actually by some miracle did win, I probably would faint. I'd be like, yeah, quit playing with me, guys. Where's the rest of the vote? I'd be like, all right, that was funny, but let's actually see who won this thing. Because like I said, we've seen people who are way bigger and running in smaller districts get destroyed. So I'm gonna remain humble. I think I'm kidding. If it was election night and they announced me as the winner, I probably would like pass out and think I was under some kind of hypnotic trance. Be yourself, solve the problems of your district. Look, man, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but there's a million ways this stuff can go the way I don't want it to, and I think it's just one of those things where let them be heard. But like I said, man, my thing would be to get people who don't even vote to actually consider registering, and making a case of, hey, would you rather play a part in electing a candidate that you actually met, or some princess that sits in her ivory tower waiting to get voted back every 2 years and thinking that she can just sit there and not actually do anything to earn your vote? I'm saying politicians, man, there's so many of them in these blue districts. They only win because no one serious runs against them. They're running against Republicans that people would rather vote for the damn squirrel that steals stuff out their mailbox than the Republicans in these districts. Start walking door to door, go get them, have a chat with them. Most politicians are disconnected. Like I thought my internet was going to disconnect from that 2 bars that they were showing. I already know Megumi disconnected. He was like, all right, forget this. He got tired of me. I didn't even read his last comment. They are being accepted all the time for how they are due to men being love starved with no attention. Yep. Damn kidding. Some of these chicks, if you said you can either be with one of them or be single for the rest of your life, I would pick the latter. I can't do it, man. And even the ones I don't find attractive, uh, they might have some positive quality, like the one that just came and walked in front of me. That one has some really nice long hair, but the rest of it is just a mess. And part of me doesn't like. I don't feel that bad saying this because it really is me expressing concern for someone's health. Um, again, it's not like we're putting people's pictures up or anything, right? But truth be speaking, I just can't get behind that stuff, man, where you just shame one gender all the time for everything, but then the other one just gets off scot free. I have triangle, can look any way I want. Because I was already telling you, like, I felt it was crazy that, we were talking about the clothing stuff, for example. Women have all these different options with attire that men don't have. And then it's like now they can be whatever weight they want and no one's supposed to say anything. But then if one of us isn't even overweight, like doesn't have muscles, you need to go to the gym. It's like, what is that? Somebody made a good example. Megumi, you'll get a kick out of this. They said if you're a guy, you have to be super boo, but she can be fat boo. Oh, Jem, I know you keep the triangle, mate. Keep her strong. Jem, you mentioned that you liked Transformers. I was showing my brother the original show because he hadn't seen it before, or he saw like an episode of it last year, and we got to the movie and then season 3, and man, it was so fun seeing his reaction to the original '86 film, and how I explained to him that the third season was an experiment that failed miserably, where they really thought back then that you can just kill off and get rid of anybody and replace them with another character because they're all just a bunch of talking robots, and it backfired so badly. Like they really thought we can just have a season and continue the show without Optimus, and it blew up in their face. And that's why every subsequent iteration of that series, whether you're talking about Beast Wars, Beast Machines, Armada, Energon, Cybertron, Robots in Disguise, the movies, Prime animated, every single one of them always has Optimus, because that experiment they tried for season 3, it did not work. Well, yeah, but that's different because he's still in being Galvatron was technically the same character. Plus, after the movie, they brought his voice actor back, so it wasn't as big of a departure. It's like it's still him, just with a different name and different and a look that is different, but you can still tell it's him because it's like the same face. No, Galvatron. I mean, I'll take him any day of the week over any of the other stuff they ushered in, because he really is just a powered up Megatron. But man, season 3 is it's so interesting to watch that and know that those kids, they said, hey, you better bring that truck back. You had a kid that locked himself in the room over Optimus dying. Like, it was it's so nice to see fans like be passionate about stuff, because that Hasbro really thought these are just toys. To hell with the 2 seasons of characterization. These are just toys. You can kill one of them off, stick another one in there, and it just blew up in their face. Oh, that is lovely. I every time I watch that season, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the failed experiment that didn't work out too well for him. Oh, you mean Starscream? Megatron, is that you? Here's a hint. another spam risk number. No, they learned a valuable lesson. They'll never replace the lead character ever again. I never had a problem with Rodimus. I just thought he was kind of like, for me, the biggest issue is you introduce what you want to be the new leader of the good guys by having him basically get the original leader killed by being an idiot and just like trying to jump the the leader of the opposition. So it's like, we're gonna make the character who got the original lead character killed the new lead character, even though you've never seen him before. That was goofy. Yeah, it was pretty wacky that was his arc. It's like, yeah, let's have him be introduced getting the lead character killed, and then he'll be the new lead character. No, that it's such a mood whiplash to go from the cartoon where everybody gets, they get blasted and they survive always and they're always fine, and then you do the movie and they're like, all the plot armor is just gone. And you get a bunch of major character deaths in the first, what, 30 minutes of the movie. Like, they rush everyone who wasn't part of that, who was part of that original season out really quick. Yeah, it's a really depressing, like, I guess it's uplifting in the sense that, the Autobots are able to keep their victory going for 20 years, but they really got driven off of their home planet. Like, they failed. They're never going to be able to go home. It's like, yeah, Earth's their new home, but still. And then you had Citizen Kane voicing the damn planet. No, that whole season is it's just so interesting to watch it now, knowing how everything turned out. Well, Unicron pissed me off because stupid Hasbro was like, "Oh, Unicron and Primus and I think it's the original 13 Transformers, it's like 12 of them. They're the same versions in every continuity, which makes no sense because they have different designs, different backstories. They're just them being dumb. They come up with all kind of little weird stuff they say. It's crazy to think he recorded his lines and then died like 5 days later. It's even crazier to think that they have Jazz survive because how popular his toy was, but then his voice actor died, Scatman Crothers, shortly after the movie was finished. So even though he survives the movie, he never speaks again because they didn't recast his voice actor. So all he can do is just show up in the background. It's no, season 3 is a real interesting experiment that really did blow up in Hasbro's face. They were not expecting the backlash that they got. Really, all the best episodes of that season have something to do with the past character from the first two seasons. Like, they have the Dark Awakening, which is the one where Optimus comes back as like a zombie. Then they have, the Ghost episode. Like, pretty much anything that I really like has to do with connecting it back to the start of it. But the problem is that with the Decepticons, because Starscream was a really interesting foil to Megatron, where there's this person who's the second in command, and they're like very open about, I want to take it over, I want to be the new leader. And with him not being there, there's really, it's basically just a bunch of yes men for Galvatron that don't really get to stand out. Like Starscream stood out. He was extremely memorable. Like that's why every version of him that shows up after that keeps the same treacherous trait. So he left a big absence in that show. I hope this stream, if this stream has taught Megumi anything, it's don't replace the main character. He was kept around to take the fall when things went bad. We got. I'm saying that they, like the original Decepticons have interesting dynamics with each other, and I don't think the ones for season 3 are really that interesting. Like it's just one of those things where yeah, which that's another thing that drives me crazy. They never like they have these two shows, Transformers and GI Joe, and they never had an official crossover. Like, yeah, they have comic crossovers, but they never had an official cartoon crossover. We know they're set in the same universe because there's like an episode where Cobra Commander disguises himself and shows up with. I just think that's crazy. Like, what a waste. I feel real bad for GI Joe. That's a brand that really should be bigger than what it is now, but it's it just never was able to reinvent itself, at least as effectively as Transformers did. He never gives up, he'll stay till the fight's won. G.I. Joe will dare. G.I. Joe. Let me stop singing before I get copyright struck. Cobra! Cobra were terrorists flying American / globe. Well, see, that's why a crossover would have made so much sense because Cobra wanted to control the sky, or they mostly like used jets, and then the Decepticons were mostly jets. Like Starscream was a jet, Thundercracker was a jet, Skywarp was a jet. Were the other three, the Conehead Seekers, Dirge, Thrust, and Ramjet, they're jets too. So I just thought it was a big waste to not have some kind of, you know, meeting of in animation at least. I don't know what they were thinking. They messed it up with the reboot. Which one? These series keep getting rebooted. They've been rebooted so many times. I don't even know which one is Cobra cannot deal with them. Too dangerous. I remember what was that show's name again? I think the last GI Joe show was called Renegades and was on the Hub, and then they end season 1 with a kind of like not a cliffhanger, but like the promise of more, and then it just never came back. I'm so sick of watching shows end on cliffhangers. Now you don't know how many cartoons I've seen they end after one season or two seasons, and it's a cliffhanger. And there's no comic continuation, nothing. Just watch this episode that has no resolution and come up with whatever you want in your head. Oh, yeah, that's another one that got ended abruptly. At least the modern version, anyway. the problem with Hasbro is they're not willing to invest enough in the in any of these different product, like, because I already said before with Transformers Prime, they bought a network with the intention of making that one of their premier shows. And by the time they got to the second season, they started telling the writers, "Hey, you better go and wrap up all that stuff you wanted to do because we're going to be doing stuff with Beast now." Yeah, so I do feel pretty bad for the writers of this stuff because they really are just like caught up in these little squabbles, and this person decides this person wants that. But the Prime writers, I feel really bad for because they had to combine season 2, season 3, and season 4 into one season so they could do some crap that they didn't even want to do. Oh, that's really bad. Anytime you have some ideas and you have to cram all of it together in one place, you just make a mess. Or you don't get to make what you wanted to make. So the whole thing is just terrible. That reboot was bad. I like Prime. I thought it was okay. I would have preferred if they kept animated going longer, but they wanted to discontinue working with Cartoon Network. For some reason, Transformers has a curse where it can only ever have 3 seasons. I don't know, man. That third season is it's hard to sit through it. I'll put it that way. For me, it wasn't even that, man. Like, even back then with 80s dialogue and they had all these censors or whatever, you still had a decent cast of characters that were well characterized, that were likable, that were entertaining, and the movies don't have that. Some of the later stuff doesn't have that. Just it's one of those things where I'm really amazed by just how many higher budgets get spent on this stuff, and they can't even make a decent character to save their life. Yeah, the original series really didn't delve into any of the lore stuff. Like, you had the one episode where they showed Optimus as Orion, which again was just one episode. Then you had some stuff with Alpha Trion for like 2 episodes, but it was mostly just the good guys stop the bad guys, or they try to, whatever. And again, that was fine. Like, all the lore stuff really comes from other series. Yeah, there's a lot of poor writing going around. But look, Jim, I'm gonna go off of here because I'm going for almost 3 hours, and I'm very tired. I was up all night, so I could have my Saturday sunrise service. So I'll be back on Monday. Thanks for showing up. I appreciate you. I'm gonna try as hard as I can to get this thing going with the with the run. It's just that it's been very difficult to do that in addition to this other stuff. It's kind of just been all over the place, but I'm trying. So thanks for showing up, Jem, Megumi. I appreciate you showing up earlier, and have a good rest of your Saturday.